But thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Chargers.
Thank you.
We got wireless chargers.
Thanks so much.
We do iPhone chargers.
Nice.
Thanks, brother.
All right, let's give them a round of applause, guys. Perfect. Thank you so much. We're gonna just pass the mic around for a few questions. Let's take questions for like 5 minutes.
So I'll be the one to ask the first one. For the AEs on the panel, have any of your SEs just, when you start working with them, just straight up asked you, hey, how have I done on that meeting? Did I do okay? Did I say the right things? Did I say anything wrong? Did I do anything wrong? Did you find that they do that? Because that's something personally that I do. And I find that other SEs are kind of foreign to that because I think there's a bit of an intimidation factor, especially with the newer SEs when they come in. These guys have been working, AEs in the field for a long time, and they're afraid to say anything. But
I think it's a great question. I'm going to take a stab at answering it. I was chatting with Lindsay earlier, and we were talking about the trust question and the answers that were happening before. And the point that we were making was, as an SE or as an AE, do you ever start a relationship by talking about how we're going to develop a trusting relationship? And so I'd say my short answer is, I don't see it as often as I would like to. I think it would be a great opportunity for the AE and the SE to start building that trusting relationship by asking the question. So I don't see it as often as I would like to.
We got a question here.
Any other question, please? At the back also.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned that you'd rather have a scrappy SE instead of a polished SE. Do you think it's possible to have a polished, scrappy SE?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're here to polish you guys. Just kidding.
all right, we got a question here.
Yeah. What's a success measure of a good SE other than striking the deal? Sometimes you cannot always score the deal. How do you evaluate that?
Well, like I said, we're going through performance reviews right now, so it's top of mind in understanding impact. And there's only so much that we can do to get a deal across the line. And so I think there's some SEs on my team that had a frustrating year. They didn't achieve their ACV goals, but there are a number of reasons for that. But if we sat back and talked through what are the other things you did this year, I think especially in fast growth companies, there's so much process and procedure to put in place. And so rather than identifying, as we think about growth mindset, rather than identifying a problem or a gap or something that needs to be done, whether it's updating rules of engagement doc or how we better work with the product team, I think there's so much opportunity to just do it. So, hey, I've identified this gap, I'm going to take a step putting it together, and then we can review it good, rather than we've had SEs on our team who just see the lack of process or the change in process as a burden rather than an opportunity. And I think there's so much opportunity in fast-growing companies to have impacts on the team and the company outside of ACV.
Yeah, for me, one thing I look at, or two things I look at on the quantitative side, is one, how many meetings per opportunity is an SE looped in on? So that tells me like how willing is an AE to pull this SE in on their deals, and seeing how that compares against different SEs. Because if AEs don't really want an SE, you're going to find out, you're going to see it in that number pretty easily. And the other one I'll look at is like, we use Salesforce to measure everything, so like how many stage advancements? How many stage advancements did an SE help drive? So that's like another quantitative one. So like as a deal advances and an SE's tied to it.
Let's take other questions.
I'll take just one thing on that. Disassociate closing deals with solutions. The reason we're called a solution engineer is you're here to do what's best for the customer. They're here to sell it. You're here to build what's actually best for your customer overall.
All right, one more question.
So we've kind of touched on it without necessarily saying it so far, but the whole remote paradigm, I feel like we could spend an entire session on this, but I think I'm especially curious from the AE side, because as an SE, all of the AEs that I work with I don't sit with any of them. So it's very different, and we have a great time when we're together, and it takes longer to build that relationship. But I'd just love to hear your take on that whole thing. And maybe all of you sit with the SEs you work with, and that's great, and that's where we want to get. But
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off that question because we have a very specific point of view. Branch is very much a work at the office culture. We've all read the Google book, the magic happens when everybody's at the office together. And so I have one remote rep right now, but, and quite honestly, like, it's been more difficult for that person to ramp up, not having Tark and the other SEs and even other AEs and post-sales there. It's just, I think it's very, very challenging. So I think at the end of the day, like, you know, the ability to pull somebody in, even as like, you know, I'm running the remote office of branch, and I jokingly call my VP, I'm like, you're like the arm to me, because whenever I can't even pull somebody in billing to tackle something or finance, like I can't physically walk over and get that person, it's that much more challenging. So same thing from an SE, AE perspective, not being able to tap somebody on the shoulder, just chat with them. It's not the same as Slack at the end of the day, right? Or Chatter, since we're at Salesforce.
Awesome. Yes.
I can give the opposite. We are quite literally the opposite of that. I think we have a very loose, personally my team is all over the country and territory, and I think that we found that works for us. So I think there's, we have a big Zoom culture. We, like, whether I was just at the gym and hopping on Zoom, no one really cares. But I think that there's pros and cons to both. We get together a lot in person as SCs, so we every 8 weeks bring the team together across the country, but we've made it work, and I think that there's a lot of pros to that as well, so that you can be in market and it's easier for you to travel, you're not traveling across the country, you can maybe just drive to a meeting, so.
Also, like, one-on-ones, right? Like, depending on the ratio and the bandwidth, but I think that having those meetings, maybe not weekly, maybe not even bi-weekly, but like a regular cadence of talking outside of just the deal stuff, to have a set time, maybe monthly, where you and your SE just kind of talk about strategy or what's going on and how to best use each other. I think that that's something that we need to continue doing.
Yeah, and I know one thing, like, I was talking about SE calendars being packed earlier. I mean, our SEs are also on the road with the AEs all the time, and so I think that one-on-one time that you spend on the road, AEs and SEs together, is absolutely critical.
Perfect. Thank you guys. That's all. We have a couple of announcements. Thank you so much for the panel. Let's give them a round of applause. So we're closing thoughts. Thank you so much for coming. Andy, if you can come up here. We want to make sure we announce our next meetup at this meetup, right? Like, close your next deal before that kind of stuff. Thank you, Andy. You're hosting the next one. Just a couple words.
Sure. Well, first of all, brief thanks to the panelists and all the other panelists who were out there before us, and also to the SENY leadership. It's been great. Braze is excited to host the next one of these things. We may not have Benioff bucks, but we'll still put on a good show. The reason why you don't see an address here is that we're in the process of moving offices, so ideally this is going to be at our new office. And more to come through all of the regular communication means for that. So thanks very much for coming.
Perfect. And thank you, Andy. That's June 12th. There's going to be, you can go to salesengineersny.com, and we're going to have a link tomorrow morning in there. So that's all going to be there. And we all want to get to know each other, network, and all that stuff. So we reserved a bar next door. All of downstairs is ours. Owen said he's going to pay for it, so it's okay.
It's BYOCC, bring your own credit card. One thing I will say is I saw a couple people taking pictures. It's fine. You just can't post them to social media or anything. Again, this space is not live yet, so if you did take a picture, please just keep it in your personal file until May 6th, and you can post it after that.
Thank you. So that's it. This is on 40th, 2 blocks, literally 1 block or 2 blocks from here. So we'll be there downstairs. You can talk to all of us, network, get to know each other, take a photo, and then we have to kind of exit maybe on your way out, get more drinks on Trilogy and Loopy.
I was about to say, guys, finish the rest of the beers. We have about maybe 15 minutes to wrap up here before.
Exactly. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.